I'll bring that word that we talked about earlier up. It's a cult. These people are a member of a cult, and if you do not agree with the cult's narrative, you are evil, unclean, domestic terrorist who might as well be in Gitmo or dead, and nobody gives a fuck about you, so you should just disappear. You don't deserve to be a part of our society. Just go away, you unclean, filthy piece of...
Not even go away. They're asking to, especially in regards to, it was brought up when the letter was sent to the Justice Department about the parents, right? From the parents,
school board meetings.
Yeah, from the school board association, right? That they're asking them, not only are they calling them domestic terrorists, so it's not just a title of domestic terrorism, they're asking them to use the full powers of the Patriot Act to investigate these parents as if they are terrorists.
Thank you, George W.
About fucking wiretapping, following people, emails, anything that you can imagine, any unencrypted private correspondence that you have, especially digital, is then subject to the federal government because you are a parent who is upset about critical race theory, transgender policies, any number of things, right? We talked about Loudoun County last episode, and that parent was... are you aware of the story that where
the school board from Loudoun County?
Yeah. So that parent who's there because his daughter was raped in a bathroom at school is asked to be considered a domestic terrorist because he's fucking irate that nothing is done.
Yeah.
Right? Because the principal says we're going to handle this in-house. Right?
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself in-house. How about that?
Yeah, exactly.
My daughter was raped.
It terrifies me, and I definitely don't say this like any type of leveling thing, but like as a parent who, like I say, my kid's gonna be 3. We're looking at going to school in the next few years. Like that terrifies me. I'm not a quiet person. Far be it from I can't imagine sitting in a room where that's happening and just not saying anything at all. Like, oh, that's fine. Yeah. I'll just let it happen.
It actually scares me to even have kids. Like at this point, I'm like, maybe I'll not do that because I'm like seeing how that's is happening, and that is terrifying. You don't really have because you also don't want to homeschool your kids because
we're homeschooling our kids.
Yeah, well, then you have to as someone that was briefly homeschooled, I'm very against it. But that's just because it was such a horrible experience for me. I highly recommend if you homeschool your children, you make sure that they are heavily socialized.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that a lot of people don't do because and your kids will end up if they're not, then they'll just end up resenting you in the end anyway. So it is important to.
Well, and that's.
It's very social as it is our kid, so there's really no escaping that.
But I'll bring this up too. One of the hashtag COVID perks that I like to bring up was the kind of invention of this concept of schooling pods, where a group of parents would get together. And I mean,
Montessori schools that are not religious.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that, or you could private tutor or whatever it is, but you could still get a group of children together so that they can partake in the socialization aspect, which is arguably the more important part of the public school system is the socialization part, where you could still get that done on a different level, where most people think of homeschooling as like the parent and the child, and that's about it. But it doesn't really need to be that way. You could do any manner of things. A group of parents could get together and all pool their money and hire a tutor. Right. And that could be a nice alternative, but it's not as...
They tried to do that.
Yeah, they tried to do that.
It's that the thing is there's also aspects of public school that are... so that, I mean, to be fair, a parent would consider not pleasant, but you're dealing with bullying, dealing with the bullshit, dealing with the shit, and I actually personally think that that's important. Like, that's how you build grit, you kind of have to go through some shit. And in public schools, you did. I don't know about anymore because now things are a little different. But I know at one point that was kind of it. Like, you kind of had to go through shit at school, and you grew and learned from it.
Right.
So that's the one thing I do know from homeschooling. They do try to do those groups and everything, but the thing is that usually all the kids are also somewhat awkward because everyone's kind of awkward because they're all.
And I think that it just depends.
I was awkward as fuck for a little bit. I'm still awkward.
So let me give some examples, right? In this particular area, there are a couple of different examples I know of. One of them is a a doctor that I know, a chiropractor that I know that was a resistor through the pandemic, right? And has since started a children's soccer league so that her kids could play soccer without having to wear masks, and she was able to like give medical exemptions for the kids to not have to wear masks to play soccer, you know. And she also started a school so that her children didn't have to wear masks in school. And so it's a Montessori school that's not religious.
Oh yeah,
because,
I like Montessori
right, because
schools. I actually,
they're also
they're
she's
cool.
also very spiritual. You know what I'm saying? She's a chiropractor by trade, but also like energy healing and all of the stuff.
Have you heard of the Waldorf schools? They're kind of similar. Waldorf.
That name sounds very familiar.
People like to call it a cult, but like I actually love the Waldorf schools. It was created by Rudolf Steiner, who like I think it was a genius. It is like he has books on politics, on spirituality. He was like a very like I would say polymath Renaissance man, and he created the Waldorf school, which is very similar to the Montessori school. The only thing that sucks about those schools is they're typically pretty expensive.
Yeah. And
They
this
cost a lot of
one
money. But I think that they're dope. They're amazing.
Yeah. And this one is relatively low cost, and there's one teacher, I think maybe two teachers there, because they have like a lower grade section and then an upper grade section. But it's a small group of kids because it's new, you know. But there's also like I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's, because we live in Washington, you know, very leftist. There's a nature school that is like the same deal, a Montessori school, but it's all done outside. And so regardless rain or shine, because it pisses rain here 60% of the year, the kids go outside and they do their educational shit outside, and it's done through the lens of wilderness and through whatever, you know?
I mean, that's cool.
It's neither here nor there, right? I'm not saying that this is the future, but these are
I do think Montessori schools are dope, but I don't consider that homeschooling. That's different.
Yeah, that's just more like private school.
Yeah, it's private school, which private schools make like I'm all about charter schools,
right?
Private schools.
When I provide these as examples because I said they're Montessori style because they're part-time homeschool. The nature school in particular is part-time homeschool, and then part of the week you're in this nature school, or for part of the day during the week you're at this nature school, and the other part of the day you're doing it at home. And even most of the homeschool here, because it has to be done through the district, right? So that you can fucking whatever, get the Department of Education to say that you're smart enough to be an adult. You have to show up at the school once a week, even if it's at the alternative portion of the public school, to turn in all of your work and do a little bit of whatever and pass a fucking test. And that's, I think, more of the bullshit you're talking about, of like, all these kids are weird. They're spending the other 38 hours a week by themselves at home, and then the 2 hours a week here at this school, where they're not getting any socialization at all up and through high school, you know?
Yeah.
And people think it's funny when I say I'm an anarchist. For fuck's sakes. I mean, is it that hard to look at the nature of the school system and how difficult it is to pull your child out of public school and still have them accredited and have them, you know, get the education that the state requires? And then I say, and then I look back and I say, okay, so I can understand this. If you agree that the state should be mandating what level of education your child should be required to have before graduation, you can go fuck yourself. I can educate a child 10 times better than they can through public school, and you're going to tell me that just because you're the one in charge, like, you get to make the shots of whether or not this kid is educated enough to like go out and be an adult.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me, and I keep talking about this, but that's one of the things that I want to do long term with the show, with this company, is create a school. You know,
alternative education. I think that we need alternative education. I personally think that that's like gonna have to be the move, is like us creating other ways to educate people, or giving them other options other than college, even just like after high school, you know, like other like vocational options, like especially for artists and creatives. Like it's hard, like figuring it out. Like, I'm lucky because I have, I guess, I have a lot of drive that has made it so that I could pursue my art career. But like, I think that that's something that is needed. A lot of people go to art school and then it's like they have nothing to show for it. They don't even.
It's because they just go to school because they want because they're an artist. They just go to school to do that.
Right.
When in all actuality, and I think it speaks to a lot of your upbringing and your kind of ability to pull yourself out of this situation that you're in.
Bootstrapping us, Colin.
We bootstrap here right now, but that's what is so lacking from most people, I should say, is that inability to be able to look at the current situation that you're in and be able to pull yourself out of it if you don't want to be there.
You take control. You got to take control of the situation.
Yep.
100%. Like, so I'm getting canceled, going back to that. Now I produce my own show, my first show that I produced by myself, like not working for a company, like solo, starting my own business through that. Like, I wouldn't have done that if I didn't get canceled. Like, I probably would still be working for them, producing shows for them. But now I'm producing my own shows. I also could have, after getting canceled, just went into the shadows and didn't produce shows anymore because everyone hated me. You know, for a little bit, I felt that way. Mm-hmm. But then I was like, you know what? Like, no, I love this. I love this. I love doing this. I'm not going to stop doing this because these people want me to stop. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm good at it. I'm going to keep doing it. And there was a level of fear for a little bit because I was like, what if people protest against my show? What if people like cause like this like drama against it? But it was amazing. It was like better than any of the shows I've ever produced for them. Like, it was the best show I've ever produced, hands down. Like, it was phenomenal. So I think that it's just like making sure that even if you have setbacks, even if something feels like it's holding you down, like you got to just always get back up. Yep. Always get back up. Always realize that even though it feels like it's the end of the world, it's fucking not. And you can change. You can change your reality to be what you want it to be by putting in the effort.
Welcome to the salt of the streets, coming at you every week with this